So, a few weeks ago, I got a contract to publish my book on design thinking. I celebrated for about 5 minutes and then I realized, wait, I gotta finish the manuscript. So, I wanna share a little bit with you about my journey to this moment of having the book contract. And then I wanna talk a little bit about what my plan is for actually getting a chunk of the writing done so that by the time I move to Morocco, I can just focus on settling in and starting my new role. Hi, I am Kalima Fergus Ayele. I am the CEO and founder of Round Trip Ticket Home. I'm also an international school leader. At Round Trip Ticket Home, we support schools and school leadership teams in using design thinking tools to create communities of connection and belonging. And one of the things that I love about using design thinking is that it really allows for the adaptability and the flexibility that comes about when there are major life changes and transitions. A lot of those tools that I share through my work are actually the tools that I'm using in this current moment. I want to talk a little bit about my journey to this moment. So, for a few years now, I've been writing pretty consistently and really documenting a lot of the stories about my own leadership journey. As a result of the consistent writing, I just have a writing practice where I'm used to getting up in the early morning hours and spending about an hour on my laptop, just getting some thoughts down on paper and not really wondering about how it will come together in the end. At some point over the past couple months, I actually was able to put a lot of my ideas, a lot of the framework that I've shared with you in previous videos together in what is known as a book proposal. Now, because the work that I'm creating is nonfiction, that means that I don't need to have a completed manuscript in order for a publisher to decide that they want to work with me. What I needed to have was a full outline of the chapters. I needed a description of what each chapter would contain. And I really needed to share enough information and context about myself and the work that I've been doing, who my audience is, and what work that is already published may be connected or related to the work, but also why my work is unique from those other published works. Finally, you also need to have one fully fleshed out chapter just so that the publisher can get an idea of your writing style and your voice, the way that you would want to communicate your ideas. My book is really centered on the design thinking tools and the work that I've been doing with leadership teams around how do we actually create a vision for what we want to see in our schools? How do we then create and design the structures and the tools and the practices and the protocols in order to bring that vision into fruition? But then also what it looks like to build our own capacity as leaders who are navigating change in our communities. As we all know, we are in what most are describing as a VUCA moment. There's a tremendous amount of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And as a result of that, our nervous systems tend to be dysregulated. A lot of the tools and practices that I talk about have to do with also building our own individual capacity for navigating change, as well as how we as leaders can show up for our communities and support them throughout those changes. For me, there'd be a couple different things. So, as you know now, I'm currently in the moment of transition. That transition involves navigating some things that are just logistic. Right? I have to figure out how to get my FBI background check done. I also need to focus on packing and moving and sorting through my belongings. I also am in communication with my colleagues, soon to be colleagues, about some planning that we need to do that can't necessarily wait for the fall. I'm also in this moment building out my own professional transition plan. You are transitioning into a leadership role. A lot of times you are expected to hit the ground running in so many ways. I want to have those conversations with the rest of my team about what the expectations are. And I'm able to do that because of the visit that I had to the school a few weeks ago. And so in addition to that, I'm also focused on my writing project. I also have my consulting business where I work with my clients. And so balancing those different elements is so important to me. And so I'm continuing to set aside time every morning to write, and I actually have mapped out specifically what I'm going to do with that time each day for the next 60 days. And that was important to me because at one point, as I mentioned, I was just writing, right? Whatever it is that came up that I wanted to get down on paper. Now I need to be much more strategic about my writing. So when am I working on the introduction? When am I working on chapter summaries? When am I working on the specific chapters? Really planning out what days each of those processes is going to occur. But really, I do see this as a gift, as an opportunity for me to balance my need for creative expression with the elements of transition, which can sometimes be a bit overwhelming. Again, I'm also making time to connect with friends and family and make sure that I enjoy being in my city, my hometown, which is New York City, especially at such a moment where there's so much joy and celebration happening. So for me, I'm just excited about everything that's coming on the horizon. Again, there's a lot of changes and transitions, and that's why a lot of the tools that I've been sharing with you about the way that I take care of myself, right? What does my morning routine look like? What does my commitment to movement look like? How am I doing with health and nutrition, and just really securing a lot of those foundational pieces so that I have what I need in order to navigate the changes ahead. I really appreciate you all being here and listening, and I would love to know how your experience has been. If you had a dream come true moment, and what did you do, and who did you celebrate with? So please share in the comments, and I'll see you next time.